Greetings, commoners! As we all know, the debate for and against the subscription fee model of Elder Scrolls Online has been going on for a while now. So I wanted to make a video about Elder Scrolls Online's Endgame and how they are justifying charging the $15 per month sub fee and how the game's content was developed around this to make it feel worth it. To come to an answer, we must first understand both sides of the coin. Most non-subscription fee games will have a cash shop in which players aren't required to pay extra money each month but have the option available to support the game with however much they feel the game is worth to them. Non-sub fee games generally have a much larger community with a lot more casual players. This also allows players to feel more freely to come back to the game after a break and don't feel they are required to put in $15 worth of time every single month. Now, subscription fee games allow the developer a more streamlined and fixed income of $15 per player monthly that allows them to gauge exactly how much regular content can be made. This is a definite amount per month compared to a varied revenue in which Cash Shop may have a very slow month and not make $15 per player. Now, for a subscription fee game to succeed, they are required to make every player feel equal and restrict other players from having things you do not. Like, for example, paying an extra $20 for an exclusive 10th race or a free mount allowing you to skip your regular MMO style of saving up a lot of gold to purchase it later in the game. Now, WoW has made as much money as they have making on the subscription, but they also offer a cash shop in which you may purchase a mount, but at least in-game you are required to still pay the mount fee to learn how to ride it, where ESO, they're giving you the mount for 0 gold. ESO has taken it a step further and offers an exclusive race for those who pay the extra $20 over the subscription fee that everyone else is. And this allows you to play a class with unique racial bonuses and crafting styles. Even WoW has yet to pull the stunt as obvious as this. So there is both sides to the scenario. WoW with 7 million players, you pay $15 per month, or League of Legends, who has 30 million active players every month, who can spend more or less in a cash shop. Which side do I prefer? Well, I like both of them. I have spent 2 to 3 times over the typical $15 a month on Guild Wars 2 just in my first month of playing because I liked the cash shop, which didn't offer more powerful bonuses, but it offered additional utilities. It gave me larger bag slots or an unlimited harvest kit and even cosmetic items like sunglasses. I also liked the subscription fee game and felt like WoW had more dedicated players in Burning Crusade and Wrath, where Guild Wars 2 mostly had players come and go regularly because it was a non-subscription. You didn't feel like you were forced into it and could always come back. Now, I also understand $15 adds up quickly when you're playing WoW, Elder Scrolls, and even have an Xbox subscription. It can get expensive paying even 2 subscriptions a month, in addition for you paying the $60 for the game, and plus any other games you want to play like Fallout 4 that year, or Titanfall, or anything like that. And most MMOs players play only one subscription game at a time. I most likely will never pay more than one subscription game at a time, so I need to choose which game I want to play. So a lot of subscription-based games have been declared as failures and turned free to play because they can't retain players with enough content or fun objectives at endgame. A successful subscription-based game requires enough content to keep you playing and paying $15 per month. Now, before I tell you ESO developers' ideals on how they plan to do this, I'd like to explain how to reach endgame and what it is that's then available to you. Now, this next part is going to be negative because it is, sadly. So far, everyone in the beta and now even press have stated that the game feels as if it's holding your hand. So basically, you pick one of the 3 alliances and are locked off from the other 2, or 2/3 of the game you could say, until you're level 50. And I'll come back to this in a few seconds, but you start your character and you play through the short tutorial explaining where you are and leads you on to a starter island. The starter island blocks the path from leading off the island and forces you to complete the main storyline as the developers intended you to before continuing to the next zone. Once finished, you move on to the next zone, a much larger area that you can explore, and yet still are forced to complete that main quest line before traveling to the next zones. Guild Wars 2 never required you to play any of the main quest line, and aside from my first character, I never replayed it with any of my other 2 max level characters. Guild Wars 2 was fully explorable. It didn't lock off any content until you reached level 50 like ESO is doing. So now you made it to level 50 and completed your entire alliance's territory. So are you feeling that what ESO is doing is wrong and bad or evil, some nefarious plot to screw over everything you love, and is everyone going to hate the game and bash it until it indefinitely goes into the void of oblivion? Yes and no. You'll always find a large portion of people against the game, and we call those haters. But back to the point. Yes, I agree ESO is locking off 2/3 of the game and restricting exploration in a big way, but here's how and why they are doing it. The short answer is it's a subscription, and they are locking off players from exploring the other two alliances to create and call it Endgame. Now at level 50, you at least have 2/3 of the game as endgame to still complete, along with hard mode dungeons, adventure zones, PvP, and even the 4 to 6 week regular release of DLC level content, new things to do. Surely there's enough to keep players for a few months. Now back to reality, which again, the answer is yes and no. Guild Wars tried to do this as well. They tried to sell their game as once you hit max level, you really only played a small portion of the game. And you can hear the developers say this over and over again. It's nothing new. And it's true. You could go back to earlier in the game, and while still being more powerful than you were before with all your skills, you would be reverted to back to the lower level zone, and find all the quests in the zone have changed because someone failed a quest or an event and it triggered a new outcome, and instead of the town being saved that you finished the quest, the town is destroyed by the bandits and needs to be rebuilt, which didn't happen the first time you were there. And you can still be rewarded with the same level gear, the rare or exotic gear you could luckily get. Now this is great, but largely fell short in the majority of players' eyes because WoW has already defined a standard for most MMOs, and the Guild Wars 2 style didn't feel progressionful like WoW. When you reach endgame, you could attend raid to fight large scary bosses and earn more powerful armor every week. Now ESO is trying to make the majority of endgame just like similarly to Guild Wars 2 by simply locking off the other zones and upscaling to level 50. Will this feel like progressionfully like WoW's endgame and that keeps people playing for months? As of right now, you could argue that it is better than Guild Wars 2's approach, but largely could still fall short than WoW's carefully crafted raids that drip feed you gear and the grind for it. I do need to add it's slightly early to accept this ideal and decide the game fails, because we've yet to experience this type of content, and additionally, we can only assume that the adventure zones, as stated by the developers, will not be the traditional raid in the sense of the word, which WoW has refined to the standard. So will it be like Guild Wars 2's world bosses, where you can take 20 players and go kill Tequatl or Jormag, those massive epic fights that is super fun against dragons 100 times larger than you that you defeat, and there's no reason to go back after receiving your achievement for doing so? Because we know it's not like WoW's traditional instance of the large bosses you kill every single week and hope your item drops. The developer said it wouldn't. So is it a mix? Will it keep people playing? Is any of this enough? Well, that all depends on the player and how enjoyable and how long the endgame can hook players, along with ESO's regular 46 week DLC level of content that will be added to the game. So, in all, we can only speculate whether or not ESO's endgame will feel worthy of a subscription. As for you, would be the wiser to take anyone's word, even mine, with a grain of salt, because none of us have experienced ESO's version of endgame. And yet, the NDA and the developers have revealed very little information about the endgame. Could it be that they're very critical or scared of failure, or are they holding a royal flush? Maybe at the very least a good hand. Only time will tell.